Hello everybody, it's me again. Hey guys, welcome back to those of you that have been here before and those of you that are new amongst us, ourselves, amongst here. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, click on the link below, go and check out some other videos as well if you're into that kind of thing. What I want to talk about today is kind of the number one question that I'm asked about my motorcycle, things in general. So be it on a group ride where there's a whole bunch of guys and girls talking about their bikes, or if it's my mates that ask me, or even random strangers on the street. See, that's the beautiful thing about motorcycles, is random strangers, whether they ride or not, will come up to you and talk to you about motorcycles. Kind of rambling a little bit, but the number one question that I'm asked is, or the question that I've been asked most recently anyway, is why Rachel, why an R1? Why did I go down that pathway, as opposed to other liter bikes, or even as opposed to, why not 600s? I guess it's two questions in one, and I'll kind of answer them separately. I'll answer the why an R1 first, because then the why liter bike question will sort of make more sense. As to why an R1, we need to go back in time. We need to go back, Marty. We got to go back a little bit to my youth, because that's actually when I kind of fell in love with sort of Yamaha and R1 and the R1 in general. And I'm talking back before the days when I knew how to ride, before I even had my driver's license, before any of that. Just when I was a little kid, I didn't know much about bikes, to be honest. I didn't know much about road bikes especially. Saw a picture of an R1 somewhere. I can't remember if it was in a magazine or on a poster, or just, I honestly cannot remember where it was, and I fell in love with it. It was a very early model R1. I put a picture up. It was blue, completely stock, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I don't know why. I was a kid. I didn't know anything about bikes. I liked the look of it. It was pretty. I fell in love with it. That love affair, as they say, kind of grew from there. I had, I remember my first ever PC, my wallpaper, well, not my first ever PC, but the sort of first PC that I decided to put a wallpaper on. My wallpaper was an R1. Or my little, any chat site I joined when I was a kid, and they could have little avatars, a little picture of an R1, or the closest thing I could find if they didn't let you pick your own pictures. So as I grew older, I started to look into the bike a bit more. I'd read reviews, I'd read specifications, and so on and so forth. To be completely honest, I have little to no idea what they meant at the time in terms of specs and stuff, but I like to read it, and any review that sort of said R1's a good bike was kind of my favorite review, and that's what I would do. So yeah, for me, that was a large part of it. The fact that it's been my dream bike ever since I was a little kid. I've loved this bike from an early age. It was a very large part of why I wanted to buy this particular bike. However, in saying that, there were other reasons, and I think these are reasons that kind of apply to everyone, which is why I decided to make a vlog about this. In my personal opinion, if your bike doesn't make you smile, if you don't walk away from your bike every time you park it and you look back at it and you smile and you just feel good inside, sell it. There is no point in you having that bike. Now, before everyone jumps down my throat, if you just buy a bike to commute or whatever, and you don't really care about motorcycling, or it's not a passion of yours, it's not a hobby of yours, I'm not talking to those kind of people. Because if we're being completely honest, someone who's buying a bike just to commute, doesn't really give a crap about motorcycles, or has a passion for the ride, won't buy this kind of bike. I'll probably buy a 250 or buy a scooter or something that's just going to get them from A to B. They're not really going to care about something like this. I'm not saying that 250 is bad. I'm just saying generally people that commute won't get this. It makes no sense. It chews fuel, so it's not fuel efficient. It gets hot, it's heated. So there's downsides to owning a liter bike, as those of you that own liter bikes will know. So I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that have the passion for the ride, that enjoy riding. It's a hobby. Motorcycling is a hobby as well as a lifestyle, and people that actually care about bikes. If your bike doesn't make you smile, then you have to reconsider the bike you've bought. Or if you're looking to buy a bike and that bike just doesn't make you smile or well up with happiness, reconsider buying the bike, no matter how good a review is. Even if people are saying it's the best bike out on the market, there's nothing better money can buy. It's sophisticated. Whatever people say about any bike, if you don't feel happy when you're riding it, and if you don't look at it and think, wow, that's my bike, don't buy it. Guys, I've had Rachel for a while now, and to this day, every time, without fail, every time I park her in the garage, when I get off her, I walk, sometimes I walk backwards. I look back and I smile and I'm like, wow, that's my bike. And this bike may not have that allure to someone else, and most probably it doesn't, but I guarantee you someone else will have that allure for a particular bike that they feel the same about. Some people feel that way about their CBRs, some feel that way about their Kawasaki. It's just, for me, this is the bike that engenders that feeling in me, and that was a major reason of why I bought the bike. It makes me happy. In saying that, I did toy with the idea of other bikes, because I thought, you know, this has been my dream bike since I was a kid. I always kind of knew I'd get one, but I thought I'll make a rational decision, a smart decision. I'll look into it properly first. You know, I also don't want to have a headache, and I don't want to cause myself to hate the bike if it ends up being, you know, having troubles or whatever it is. So I looked into a few other bikes, and I've ridden a few other bikes. So it's not an extensive list, but in terms of what bikes were up for contention before, when I was contemplating buying a bike, I was looking at the Kawasaki ZX-10. I've ridden a Jigsaw 1000 and a 750, a CBR 5-blade 1000 RR, and the Ducati 1199 Panigale. Now look, none of these bikes you're ever going to really need the power they have. So let's not get into argument of whether you need that power. You don't. I don't care what anyone says. Nobody needs the power of a little bike on the street. We just like to have that power, that raw power between your legs. Whether you use it or not, it's a thrill thing for me. Anyway, I digressed. So the bikes that I looked into, I'll kind of go through them one by one and why I chose the R1 in general. For me, the most comfortable, I guess, of the ones that I mentioned would have to be the Kawasaki ZX-10. The ZX-10R. It's just so smooth. The gearing on it is really tall, and I'm talking, guys, and I'm talking for street riding at the moment. So it's very smooth. It handles very easily, and accelerates like a beep. Like it accelerates so hard. Beautiful acceleration. They sound real good, especially when you put a nice pipe on them. The stock cans sound like absolute garbage. But anyway, in terms of smoothness and acceleration, out of the ones that I rode, I would say the ZX-10 would have to take it. The first bike, actually, funnily enough, the first bike I eliminated that I said, look, I probably will not get for the time being, or I wouldn't get, was the Ducati. Guys, to be honest, I love Ducatis. I love the sound of a V-twin. I just absolutely love that sound, and they do look really nice. But if we're being completely honest, and most Ducati owners will agree to this, and I know a few Ducati owners, a couple of mates ride Dukes, they're uncomfortable as fuck. Like, I mean, for me anyway, I don't know about different body styles and body shapes, but for me, my body shape, my the way I sort of sit on a bike or whatever it is, I mean, the one I was looking at was the 1199 Panigale, but it was just, for me, it wasn't a comfortable ride on the street. The coil is right near your leg and it kept rubbing up against it. The seating position didn't agree with me too well. And I'm not saying that these are bad things about that bike. I'm just saying that I didn't find them comfortable. So I know plenty of people that, you know, find them more comfortable, and find my R1 ridiculously uncomfortable. It's just a personal preference thing. So yeah, look, it looks amazing. It sounds even better. But I didn't want to kind of get sick of riding because I was so uncomfortable all the time. So that's what eliminated the Duke for me. Just comfort on the road. The next item for the contention was the CBR 1000 RR, the 5-blade. Really nice bikes. Very comfortable ride. But to be honest, it didn't do it for me in terms of, I don't know what it was. I was on the bike and I was like, yeah, it's a really nice bike. They're quick as anything and very responsive. Torque like you wouldn't believe. I think the CBR 1000 has more torque at 8,000 RPM than Rachel here has at 11,000. So for me, it wasn't all about speed and torque and all that. It was a factor, of course, like, you know, with anything, but it had more torque than Rachel. They're very quick, very comfortable to ride, very easy to get like right over. They handle very well, but I don't know what it was. I can't even describe it. I didn't feel that connection with the bike. I didn't feel excited. loved riding it. It was just, yeah, I'm on a very quick bike that's easy to handle, and that was it. So I actually toyed with the idea of the CBR for so long because it was such a nice bike, but I just didn't have that connection with it. And they look good too, so I don't know what it was. Again, personal opinion, personal preference. Next up was the GSXR, or Gixxer as some people call them. I rode both the 750 and the 1000. The 750 I only test rode at a dealership. The 1000 I rode for a few days because a friend has one. But they're fun bikes. I just wouldn't buy one. For a couple of reasons. Their reputation in Sydney, Australia anyway, is horrible. The police constantly plague you. Those that know, the differences in bikes. I mean, police plague every bike, motorcyclist, but the ones that know the difference especially will sort of plague Gixxers. Generally, it's a certain type of person, certain type of rider that rides a Gixxer. And I'm not saying that all Gixxer riders are bad. I'm not saying that at all. Again, I've got mates that ride GSXRs. But for me, it just has a really bad reputation. That bike for me has never had any allure, but I thought I'd ride it. They ride really well, funnily enough, especially if you're a bit shorter. The GSXR is the way to go. And for example, my girlfriend loves them. Yeah, she loves the GSXRs. She, absolutely loves them. I don't like them. I like the reputation they have. For me, they're a bit short. And just in general, the front end, the new ones are pretty nice, but just the front end, I don't like that big light at the front, and aesthetically, they didn't really appeal to me. Yeah, Gixxer was very quickly eliminated. So what it finally came down to at the end of the day was a toss-up between either an R1 or a ZX10. Like I said before, the ZX10 accelerates like you wouldn't believe, handles like a dream, very smooth on the road, very smooth in terms of gearing. Overall, very nice bike, a little bit shorter. So what you'll notice is I'll put up a photo of a ZX10 and an R1 side by side. And if you notice the sort of the profile of them, so you'll see that the ZX10 is, from if you look at just sort of the line it makes on top, is very kind of flat all the way. So in terms of the seat, the tank, and the handlebars, they're all in sort of succession. They're just flat. The R1 has a bit of a V, so it kind of goes like that and like that. And especially, you'll notice it more if you look at the back. The arse end of the R1 kind of points up, and you feel that difference when you're riding. So with the R1, you see that you're kind of nestled into it. So I don't know if you can make it out on camera, but you're like sitting in and the tank kind of comes up and you can sort of lean forward around it. The ZX10, I got the feeling anyway that I was kind of sitting on top of the tank, so you're sort of sitting up here and I felt like I'd slide forward. Now it's not the case, you're not going to slide forward, but it's just, that was a bit uncomfortable for me. I guess it was just I wasn't used to it, and if I had bought the bike I probably would have gotten used to it very quickly. But yeah, there was that. So I rode the two around for a little while. And for me, what my another factor was to consider was the sort of translation from street to track and track to street. I wanted a bike that I could, sort of every now and then take to the track when I felt so inclined, but also a bike that handled well on the streets. I didn't want solely a track bike that I would be uncomfortable all the time riding on the street. And I didn't want a bike that was solely comfortable on the street that kind of didn't enjoy when I took it to the track. And for me personally, the R1 is like sort of the perfect embodiment of that bike. The suspension on the street is unbelievable. It's very soft. It's really comfortable. I can't rave about the suspension on road. A bit soft for my liking, but it's really comfortable on the street. When you take it to the track though, that suspension does let it down a little bit. Like you kind of get the feeling like it's going to blow out the suspension every now and then when you're pushing it under hard riding on the track. But in saying that, it's adjustable. So for a track day, if anyone that does a track day knows, you kind of prepare your bike for the track day. As part of that preparation, just tweak the suspension a bit, toughen it up, and you're good to go. So for me, the R1 was the sort of perfect embodiment of a bike that I could take on the track and be comfortable and enjoy it, and I could take on the street and be comfortable and not feel like I'm riding around, you know, just a designated track bike that's very uncomfortable, stiff, and kind of hurts my ass after too much riding. I absolutely love the cross-plane sound. I love the big bang engine. I found with the cross-plane, you either love it or you hate it. So I know guys that love it, I know guys that don't like it. Me, I love it. I love the torquiness it gives the bike. Those of you that haven't ridden an R1, these things are so torquey, like just linear power delivery all the way through all the gears. That cross-plane really makes a difference, and I like the sound of it as well. I've still got the stock cans on, so we don't really unlock the full sound, and the cat's still in there as well. Planning to get rid of those fairly soon and put on a pair of Graves Motorsport full titanium exhaust. But until then, I mean, it's still got that sort of deep rasp rumble to it. At times, it almost sounds like a V-twin. What I loved about the R1, again, from when I was a kid, it was my dream bike. Love just the gearing, the torquiness of each gear. You constantly feel like, the downfall for me for a lot of leader bikes is that at the lower rev ranges, it's kind of just spooling up, and they don't like to sit there for too long, and you feel like if you're going slow, it's just annoying the bike. And by all means, you get that with the R1, but you've got that consistent power delivery that starts. It doesn't matter whether you're in first gear or fifth gear at 3,000 RPM or not 9,000, it still feels and sounds good. And I love that about this bike, just that constant torque everywhere in the gearing ranges. That for me was kind of why I bought the R1. So it had, out of all the bikes that I kind of rode, it had the most appeal to me in that it had that appeal that it just made me feel good, it made me happy. I really liked the bike. To recap, what I kind of fell in love with about the R1, it was my dream bike from when I was a kid. When I looked at it, when I rode it, it made me happy, it excited me. Even when I'm riding slowly, the bike excites me. It's a bike that I feel translates well between both track and street. It's comfortable on the street, it's comfortable on the track with some very minor sort of tweaks and adjustments. Sounds good, looks good, and is the most comfortable for me to ride. Most of the reviews I read said they're fairly trouble-free, like you don't get a lot of trouble with them. And that guys is why I chose the R1. That was my decision-making process.